The distant shores of silence begin at the door. You cannot fly there like a bird. You must stop, look deeper, still deeper, until nothing deflects the soul from the deepmost deep. No greenery can now satisfy your sight. The captive eyes will not come home. And you thought life would hide you from the other life that overhangs the depths. You must know there is no return from this flow, this embrace within the mysterious beauty of eternity. Only endure, endure. Do not interrupt the flight of shadows. Only endure, clear and simple, more and more. We had no expectations on our way to Kazakhstan, except one unique desire, to give our lives and faithfully serve the church here in our calling. This local church captivated us. We were greatly moved that this was a church of the Acts of the Apostles, a church of the first Christians, a church that was, in a sense, emerging from the catacombs. We, in effect, live as one family, though we are scattered throughout a diocese twice the size of Poland. We looked at Asia, Central Asia, with big eyes. What is it? Space, space, space. The steppes charmed us in their variety, how they vary from region to region. Space and silence. We came to Kazakhstan exactly a year ago, from the Carmel of God the Merciful in Częstochowa. We of course arrived on the invitation of the Archbishop Thomas Peter, of the Archdiocese of the Blessed Virgin Mary in Astana, here in Kazakhstan. I lived in Częstochowa for 41 years. I had been thinking about going east. It must have been 10 years earlier. When we arrived here in Ozhorna, I went inside the church and I experienced something during prayer, as if a confirmation that the Mother of God wanted us here. She quite simply wants us here by her side. The decision to go to Kazakhstan was in response to a calling, an appeal of Archbishop Thomas Peter, who had visited us for 3 years before our arrival. His words deeply ingrained themselves on my memory. Sisters, do not be afraid of Kazakhstan. Do not be afraid of Kazakhstan. Come. We were afraid of the climate. Would we succeed in adapting to the cold, the winters, the snowstorms, the summer heat waves with temperatures of over 40 degrees, sometimes even more, incredible scorching heat. In winter, frosts also up to minus 40 degrees. Winds are very, very annoying. Coming here from Europe entailed a certain culture shock, the need to shift and adapt to a more Spartan existence. Water is short, and what there is salty. At the beginning, we had to bring water from a well. We now have piped water supplying the homes. but the arrangement only works in the summer. During the winter, all the pipes freeze, burst, and that means we have to go back to carrying water from the well. Saving water is unimaginably important. Every drop is worth its weight in gold. On the other hand, they cut off the electricity supply again and again, especially when the wind is strong and a storm is brewing, a life uniquely by candlelight. This house was given to us by the descendants of Polish exiles. It was the first prayer house during the times of the regime. Inhabitants of Ozorne used to gather here secretly for prayer. The first Polish priest also lived later in this house. We came to a house that had not been used in many years, so everything was here, including, for example, tenant mice. 2 sisters slept on the veranda to begin with, an unheated veranda, but not to worry. The harder it was, the gladder we were. Meeting the people of Ozorne was our first meeting with Poles, glad to hear the Polish language once more, and keen not to speak Russian with us. We will not gawarit po-ruski, chat in Russian with you. We want to talk to you in Polish. For them, Ozorne is like a miniature Warsaw. Just as some villages are German, so here the majority of people are Polish exiles sent from the Ukraine. They exude the Eastern expansiveness of goodwill and openness. They received us just like their own, and they look after us just like their family. They taught us about life from the beginning, how to live in Central Asia, how to prepare for winter. For example, that potatoes have to be dug up earlier to ensure they do not freeze. Simply, step by step, just like parents teach their children how to live. So they took care of us, watched over us, and introduced us to the realities of surviving in that climate under those conditions. Moreover, as one lady put it, even if the snow inundates you, no matter, we will come and dig you out. Or neighbors, the other side of the potato field. Come to my garden if you need something. Please, help yourself. There is enough for both of us. Sometimes she brings us milk, such that the left hand doesn't know what the right hand is doing. Discreetly laid at our door, absolutely without charge. The goodness of these people moves us greatly. How God looks after us in the smallest details of life. She is our convent's founder, so a person especially close to our hearts. In fact, a neighbor who is a real mother to us. We thank you from the bottom of our hearts. We experience such signs of God's love every day, countless times. This land is a land of martyrdom, whilst at the same time a land of real God's miracles. These people really take great care of us.
Ludzie się o nas bardzo tutaj troszczą. domek jest
This is a small house that used to be a family house.
Obecnie jest nas 3 i dla nas 3
For the time being, we are only 3, and one could argue that that is enough for the 3 of us. Nonetheless, to live our lives to the full, and after all, that is why we are here, we need more space.
Każda z nas powinna mieć swoją celę.
Each one of us should have our own cell. In addition, we trust that callings will come, not necessarily from Poland. We have a great faith that there will be local callings, which is why it is essential that we build an additional convent wing.
Jeszcze kolejne skrzydło klasztoru Karmelu. W kwietniu, kiedy już było coraz cieplej i mrozy zaczęły
We began pulling down that chicken house that stood on the spot of this extension in April, once it became warmer and the ice began to break.
na miejscu tej obecnie dobudówki.
On this side, where we are now standing, there will be 2 cells, a workshop for making habits or embroidery, or yet other works.
Haftowanie, czy jeszcze inne prace. Dzwonniczka zwieńczona jest krzyżem i będzie.
The campanile is surmounted by a cross. There will be a bell there, and lower down, as you can see, there will be a small hermitage where each one of us will be able to experience a retreat, days of reflection, or simply time to quieten down, look from above at the beauty of our natural surrounding, the expanse, at the steps, and the lake.
Na przestrzeni, na stepy, na sopkę. Z całą pewnością nie poradziłybyśmy sobie same.
Without any doubt, we would not have managed to build anything alone. The present repair, and even the extension that is becoming more visible by the day, is all financed by what we bring from Poland, from our families, friends, and benefactors.
Nasza obecność
Our presence here is seen by our neighbours as we are a witness to hope. Because this is an enclave cut off from the world with no roads, difficult access, at times totally cut off from the world by rain or mud so deep that no car will pass. At times, there is such real despair. Young people flee to Europe to study, and there is a question of whether they will ever return, of whether Ozione has a future. However, God has his ways, and is beginning to kindle small green lights. God's purpose is somehow realized here.
naprawdę przyjechałyśmy dla Kościoła.
We came here for this church, for these priests, to accompany them by our prayer. Sometimes a night vigil or a communal rosary for concrete causes benefiting this church.
W konkretnych intencjach tego Kościoła, tych kapłanów. Bardzo tego doświadczamy.
We really feel that we are at the heart of the church. Whenever there are events, diocesan or church ones, the bishop sends us a text message with a plea for us to pray for the particular cause.
Bardzo odnajdujemy siebie.
We find experiences, our ordeals and ourselves in Karol Wojtyla's poetry, especially in Shores of Silence. For long, someone was leaning over me. On the line of my eyebrows, his shadow had no weight. Like a light filled with green, like green with no shade. An ineffable green that rests on drops of blood. That leaning gesture, both cool and hot, slides into me, yet stays overhead. It passes close by, yet turns to faith and fullness. Locked in such an embrace, a gentle touch against my face, Then amazement falls, and silence. The silence without a word, which comprehends nothing, and the balance is nil. And in this silence I lift God's leaning gesture above me still.
Przed wstąpieniem do Karmelu byłam aktorką.
I was an actor prior to joining the Carmelites. I worked in the theatre. I spent my last years, those preceding my joining, at a theatre in Częstochowa.
Przy parkingu jasnogórskim jest Karmel.
There, next to the Jasna Gora sanctuary parking lot, stands the Carmelite convent that I joined in 2002 on New Year's Eve. I will be making my final vows in 2 days.
Choć późno wstąpiłam,
Though I joined late, my life experiences before joining, in fact, unceasingly led me. I felt as if he was leading me step by step, exactly to this place.
Właśnie do tego miejsca. Grałam bardzo różne role.
I played a great variety of roles during those more than 20 years. Theatre was my passion. I also had a feeling that with the talents that I'd been endowed with, I served God and people.
W teatrze nauczyłam się słuchać.
The theatre taught me to listen, and somehow simultaneously grew an ever greater thirst for listening to the word of life. In other words, Holy Scriptures, words spoken by Jesus. I was always attracted by the silence I felt every time I passed the threshold of a chapel during the adoration of the Holy Sacrament.
Każdej jakiejkolwiek kaplicy, gdzie była adoracja Najświętszego Sakramentu.
I quite simply felt as if I was enveloped by his radiation or his loving arms. From such a call of my heart, and from such a silence before him, hidden in the holiest sacrament, was born and matured my calling.
Rodziło się i dojrzewało moje powołanie.
I Syna, i Świętego Ducha. Радуйся, Мария, благодати полная, Господь с тобою, благословенна ты между женами, и благословен плод чрева твоего, Иисус.
Wszyscy moi przyjaciele z teatru nie byli zdziwieni.
They, all my theatre friends, were not the least surprised. They said that sooner or later they expected I would, as they called it, go to my Holy Land. That they saw me that way was also very charming. They said that my decision to give myself so radically to God was for them a great retreat. I pray for them, one could say incessantly, because I carry them in my heart and know how badly they need prayer. But I also know that they pray for me and that they accompany me in the spiritual sense, because they express it in the number of letters they send, even to far-off Kazakhstan.
Bo dają temu dowody też przysyłając listy nawet tutaj już do Kazachstanu.
I na wieki prosławiała Prесвятую Троицу.
Can we try?
Ja, siostra Елизавета Пресвятой Девы Марии из горы Кармель,
I, Sister Elizabeth of Our Blessed Lady of Mount Carmel, wanting to live faithfully at one with the Virgin Mary, in perfect devotion to Christ, into your hands, Mother, before the sisters here gathered, to Almighty God.
всемогущему Богу, отдаю себя всем сердцем этой семье.
I surrender myself with all my heart to this family, renewed by Saint Teresa, so that by the grace of the Holy Spirit, with the help of the most blessed Mother of God, through unceasing prayer, in obedience to the Gospel, and in service to the Mother Church, I might attain the fullness of love and praise the Holy Trinity for all eternity.
Живущий в Иерусалиме.
Хорошо.
Kiedy powiedziałam, że tak, Jestem gotowa.
When I said, yes, I'm ready to go to Kazakhstan, I knew that it might not happen so quickly, because sisters, before their prealable vows, before the final vows, do not go to new foundations.
I pamiętam, jak wtedy nie wiedząc w ogóle,
And I remember how at the time, without any idea of where we would end up, I said to our mother, in an outburst of the heart, yes, I am ready to go, today, here and now as I stand, and even if I have to make my vows in the middle of the steppes, I am ready to go today.
To jestem gotowa dzisiaj jechać.
We grow together, growing upward, propped by the heart. Green space moves towards the burdens of the wind suddenly cast onto leaves. Growing inward, not growing but learning. How deep your roots thrust, how much deeper. No ready footpaths for man. We are born a thicket, which may burst into flames into the bush of Moses, or may wither away. We are always having to clear the paths. They will be overgrown again. They have to be cleared until they are simple. With the mature simplicity of every moment. for each moment opens the wholeness of time, as if it stood whole above itself. You find in it the seed of eternity. When I call you sister, I think that each meeting contains not only the communion of moments, but the seed of the same eternity.
Oziorno je kocham z każdym dniem coraz bardziej.
With every day that passes, we love Oziorno more. It is as if the climate and atmosphere here enable us to return to the beginnings of our charisma. One can lead a life similar to the hermits on Mount Carmel. We are very happy. We are so happy that, well, only here have I been able to find fulfillment. Up to then, my convent life was a preparation for something that was to come, an intuitive realization. And now, yes, it's this. This is what it was all about.